Hey world! It's been a while, but I still wanted to do a little Biannual Bibliothon wrap up. So these are all the things I read, and I'm just gonna start on top and tell you what I thought. So the first thing I read was All My Friends Are Superheroes by Andrew Kaufman, and I've been meaning to read this for ages. I've heard so many amazing things about this, and yeah, I was really excited about it. And this is the 10-year anniversary edition, so there are even more superheroes in this, and it was so great. Honestly, the story itself, like the plot, wasn't even that important. It was cute and sad and like an enjoyable story, but just the superheroes themselves are so amazing. Just this idea, and like the pages in between where random superheroes get introduced that aren't part of the story, and then in this edition the additional superheroes we get at the end, where we just have basically lists of other superheroes that are never mentioned in the story just because Andrew Kaufman had them in his brain. It's so cool. I just find the idea of all those superheroes that are basically like a bit better than average at something that is mostly just really random and not really helpful. They are just amazing. Then I read or finished reading The Ordinary Farm by Ted Williams and Deborah Beale. This was the second part, and I buddy read this with my best friend Janina. And we also already buddy read the first part, and it is a really good read. I love The Ordinary Farm stories and the fact that they are like little children who are siblings who come to this farm that just has all those magical creatures, and it's just really interesting. So many possibilities for like creating our own theories. Like most of the time we didn't talk that much about what was actually happening in the book, but about what we thought would happen. So just, yes, such an interesting read. Also really enjoy the way the characters are written. I think especially in this one, because we get the perspective of Colin Needle, who is actually one of my favorite characters, even though he's a brat. And I think the way they are written, it's really obvious that they are different characters. So sometimes when you read a book from various perspectives, it isn't that obvious, and like the writing style is very similar. But here I think that the different perspectives and the different personalities of the kids really come through in the writing. However, what we both found very annoying is that this is the second part of what was supposed to be, I think, 6 books that they just never wrote. This is the last actual book that's out. And it obviously ends on a cliffhanger and with so much that's left undone and unsaid, and as I said, so many theories that we will never know if they're true or not, so many things that we will never understand. And it just, I hate this. I want the other books. But we will probably never get them. And that's so annoying. Why? Then I actually picked this up on a whim, just because this new Spider-Man film, Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, is coming, or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, is coming out soon, I think around Christmas, and the trailers look so amazing, and I already love Spider-Gwen. I've read those comics and loved them, and I didn't know much about Miles Morales, so I wanted to know more about him, but kind of ease myself into his story. And this is a story in which Spider-Man, our Peter Parker Spider-Man, goes into the dimension where Miles Morales lives, and they meet, and like basically nothing really happens. They just kind of sit there and compare their dimensions and what happens. And it's just so fun. And now I absolutely adore Miles Morales and want to read more of his comics, and I'm so excited for the Spider-Verse film. And yeah, just such a good comic, such an interesting character, and I really fell in love with him and want to know more. So yeah, really nice read. It's also just one comic, which I quite enjoy, because most of the time there are like at least 4 comics to complete the story, but here it's just like this little snippet of their stories meeting, and it's really nice. The next book I read was a German translation of a Japanese novel, which is called Sin, or in German Sünde, by Shusaku Endo. And basically I read this for my bachelor's thesis because, as you can see, I put like all the little notes in, and I'm writing about Frankenstein and like how there are adaptations of this creator and monster relationship, and how this relationship works in other novels and in other adaptations of the basic storyline. And here we have a Japanese author who is Christian and quite a good person, and like everyone likes him and his stories, and then he starts hearing these rumors about himself doing very bad and uncharacteristic and quite sinful things. And it's so fascinating on a psychological level because there are so many hints as you progress in the story, and like hints at his character and what he's doing and what is happening with these rumored things he does. And you get pushed into the direction of understanding what is happening, but then you still question yourself. It's also really delicately written. I do have to say at some points it was a bit boring because of that, because I sometimes felt like nothing was really happening, and there are a lot of switches in perspective and not that well done. At least for me, it felt like sometimes they were unnecessary, sometimes they were too soon, sometimes I didn't really know there was a change in perspective because they weren't introduced that well. The plot itself is so gripping and kind of creepy, but also really intriguing, and yeah, just really, really interesting. Such an interesting novel. I think I want to read more of this author now. I have to see if there are more German translations and if there are any English translations. But yeah, just really fascinating read. I'm not quite sure whether I'll like it yet. And the last thing I read was Stuff I've Been Feeling Lately by Alicia Cook, which is a poetry collection that is really interestingly done because on the one hand we have the normal poems, and then we have the remixes, which are blackout poems she did of her own poems, which is such a cool idea. To be honest, I did have a bit of a problem getting into her writing style because stylistically speaking it's quite modern. Like there isn't really a rhyme pattern, there isn't really this structure, this typical structure of poems, and I don't really like poems that don't have such a structure. I prefer the conventional rhyme pattern style of poems. However, once I got used to that, what she was saying was so, yeah, touching. Touching is the only thing I can think of. It's so honest and pure and emotional and raw, and just she has such a wonderful way with words, and with like I felt like every single one of her poems, no matter how short, no matter how metaphorical, was telling a true honest story. And it just once I got into this, I couldn't put it down anymore. I had to read the story that was behind her words. And then the blackout poems felt like her looking at this story that she went through in hindsight, and then her perspective on that afterwards. And just, yeah, it's really well done. So yeah, this is everything I read for the Summer Biannual Bibliothon. I had a lot of fun. The sprints were so much fun, and especially the video challenges. I enjoyed making those videos so much and watching everyone else's videos, and just, yeah, it was a really fun, creative, wonderful reading week, and I'm glad I got to join in. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you always have a reason to smile, and I shall see you soon. Bye!